Okay, here and welcome to What is Biology, where we're going to seek to answer that question here and provide a little background for you. Well, the obvious question when we're looking at biology, well, bio means life and ology means the subject of study, so therefore biology is the study of life. But that brings in the question, what is life? So when we're looking at what life is basically individual components that will result in a behavior. You see that here with this newly hatched sea turtle. When we're looking at these individual components, we want to take something and break it down into those individual components. Take maybe an organism and break it down into some of the tissues, some of the potential organs or the cells. So here we're seeing someone shucking a corn. This kind of gives us the idea of the layers that can be involved and some of the smaller structures that can be located within. For example, the cells. These little corn kernels here, you can think about them as kind of like the cells that represent the individual. In cellular organization, all living things are composed of at least one cell, so that's a good way to go about targeting that. We also have metabolism, so all living organisms use energy, consume and use energy. In addition, the all-important homeostasis. So here we see some guy in a tightrope balancing out. All living organisms must maintain stable internal conditions despite the changing external conditions that they may be facing so they can stay on that tightrope of life. In addition, we have this kind of blooming and growing flower here, and this is important for growth and reproduction. All living organisms must grow and reproduce, and we see the flowers not only growing, but the reproductive structures of the plant. Now, what those organisms are going to be passing on is the process of heredity. So all living organisms possess genetic material that's based on DNA. That's what's passed on to the next generation. Moving along to the organization of life. So if we have life, we need to have it organized. And how do we go about organizing that? Well, when we're looking at life, here we have a small little ladybug. We can look at the atomic level, the molecule level, and we can zoom out to the Earth here and even beyond. And this goes pretty far into kind of the galaxy-based, but you get the idea of how we can start with something very small, progress to very large. When you walk in the woods, well, what do you see when you walk in the woods? Do you see kind of all these things kind of coming together? See how the water and the trees and the animals all interact. Here we have a single neuron that cannot perform the tasks of the brain. We have something called an emergent property, or higher level organization that contains novel properties not found in the simpler level. Here we see neurons working together as the functional brain that no single neuron can perform on its own. Applying this same concept to these geese in the field here. Well, we know what an emergent property is. What emergent property can these geese provide? In addition, they tend to work together for looking for food. That's one thing, but really if you see them in particularly the spring and the fall, flying efficiency when they form that nice V. Now, in addition, we have 5 themes that unify biology here. And these first one would be evolution. The gene frequencies change in a species over time. This is over a long period of time. In addition, another theme that kind of ties in biology is the flow of energy. Here we see plants capturing the sun's energy, capturing that light energy and forming carbohydrates. Now we see that flow of energy, so those plants are being fed on by insects. So you ever see an insect chewing on a leaf, gaining that energy that was once captured by the plant. And then here we see the poor insect being fed on by another insect. So it's kind of that circle of life that we kind of go through. Now, in addition, we also have interaction that will occur. And this is interaction between organisms. Here we have the plant and the insect. And we also have structure determines function. So with the knife and the fork, the structure needs to be well suited to fit the function. The knife and the fork are a great example of that. And lastly, of course, we have homeostasis. Living organisms act to maintain a relatively stable internal environment despite the changes that occur around them, so that, again, they can stay on that tightrope of life.